This segment is from the Air Raid Hour podcast. The full show is live every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the Cover One YouTube channel. Don't miss out.
Another hot name out of Mobile this week was Braden Fisk. I know Eric and Anthony, they were discussing just how easy it is as a Bills fan to see flashes of Kyle Williams in his game. You know, we have a mutual friend here at the Air Raid Hour, Casey Reed. He's a huge FSU fan, and he's just been talking about Braden Fisk and Fabian Lovett for it seems like almost like a year now. So he was on our radar, and I was always looking at Braden Fisk as like a third or a fourth round guy. And I feel like after this week in Mobile, we'd be lucky if he's there at 60.
You would be lucky if he's there at 60. Braden Fisk was physical, powerful, disruptive, agile. He was everything at defensive tackle in Mobile all week. He might have been the best interior defensive lineman outside of T'Vondre Sweat. I think Sweat probably still has him in terms of grade, but I think they're in a similar tier. I think Braden Fisk, listen, please tune in. Thursday nights we record. We don't do it live yet. We might go live here soon, but Cover One Draft Weekly record on Thursday night. I drop it every Friday. I'm going to be talking a lot about Braden Fisk on that show this week as one of the big winners. There's definitely going to be a segment called Fisky Business. It's going to happen. It's going to be great. Super excited about it. But Braden Fisk, he can win with power. He can win with speed. He showed a great push-pull all week to get linemen to just collapse forward. Braden Fisk might be one of those targets too, where if someone is super stoked to get into the late first as a trade-up partner and we get the rare Brandon Beane trade down, then Braden Fisk could be in play as one of those day two defensive linemen that is a motor. I mean, he is powerful. The only knock that I have on him, and if you want to call it a knock, it's more of just like when you're comparing pros and cons. His arms are a little bit short, but it didn't show up as any sort of hindrance to his ability. He comes into the game plan all the time. He's definitely one of the top interior defensive linemen in this class. So we got a comment there about Jerjon Newton. He's right there too. You're talking about these are all the top interior defensive linemen that are going to be coming out in this class. And I honestly think that it might behoove Buffalo to make a run at one of those guys and kind of wait on wide receiver if that's what how the board is falling. I would love to see that. It's not just round one wide receiver or a bust, people. There's a ton of wide receivers in this draft class that can be impact players.
I'm also team trade back, because how nice would it be to get maybe a wide receiver and sort of a wide receiver at 60 and maybe one of those DTs in the 40 range, plus adding a fourth round pick. Like, I think
sick.
If you're the Buffalo Bills, like this legitimately, like we talk about year after year after year, this might be it. This might be the year. I'm manifesting, Bills Mafia. I'm manifesting.
Speaking of manifesting, we need to manifest some defensive linemen to back up Ed Oliver onto this roster at the moment as well. So, again, I mean, the interior of this defensive line right now is Ed Oliver, right? I mean, so speaking a little bit more now about a couple of these other three techs that were there in Mobile, the Hall, they're not brothers, but I'll call them the Hall brothers, Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State and Gabe Hall from Baylor, which we know Sean McDermott and that connection with Baylor. We talk about it all the time on this show for the past couple of years. What about these two guys? Any of these guys stand out as possible, maybe backups to Ed Oliver? Did either guy maybe stand out more than the other? How about these two guys?
I think Buffalo's drafting a defensive tackle in this draft class is just a matter of when.
Yeah,
it's where does the ball or where does the board fall?
Brandon Beane admitted he wanted one last year and the board just didn't fall his way. So you know for a fact he's going to make it happen this time.
Yeah. I think it's definitely in play for sure. Both of these guys, the law firm of Hall and Hall. Gabe Hall, I think, popped a little bit more than Michael Hall did to me this week. I think the athleticism looked a little bit better. Won a lot of reps, really strong hands, good combination of speed and power. I think that he's an intriguing guy. One of my favorite things about Gabe Hall is that I saw him a lot of times be really quick to get his hands inside against offensive linemen that may have been starting too wide. Like he shot that real quick and was able to punch those hands in there. And once you get that leverage on an offensive lineman, it's game over. So I really like both of these guys. They both had speed to power. They both have agility. Michael Hall was able to throw down a spin move a couple times, which I think the defensive linemen, the defensive tackles in particular, were wanting to pull out all the tools this week. You're trying to show everything that you got, right? I mean, all of them down there were trying to do it, but none of them looked bad doing it. Like all these guys have that in their toolbox, and you're like, cool, great. There's a bunch of guys down here that have a varied attack, that have a plan of attack for how they go about setting up offensive linemen, can win in a variety of ways, have heavy hands. You're not getting blown off the ball. It was like, all right, cool. I think the trenches really looked great on both sides. I think the offensive linemen got the highest buzz out of this Senior Bowl, but I think the defensive tackles were like, they were holding up. They looked pretty good in a variety of situations.
I'll tell you what, like this might sound a little arrogant, but if someone were to be like, you have to put money on one player the Buffalo Bills are selecting and what round they're selecting this player in.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Gabe Hall in the third.
Gabe Hall in the third round. Like,
let's go.
The Dave Aranda connection, Sean McDermott, like Trey White, Terrell Bernard. We've already taken Terrell Bernard maybe a round or two higher than people thought Terrell Bernard would go. I think Gabe Hall is a third round pick, but I think a lot of people might assume he's a fourth or a fifth round pick. It would not shock me, right? Like you're going to get up to the board in the third round. People are going to be like, oh my God, this receiver's still there. Oh, Audric Estime, he might still be there. Like there'll be all these names and people will be popping, boom, boom, boom. Like everyone's eyes will be just everywhere. And then someone will come up to the mic and be like, Gabe Hall, defensive tackle, Baylor. And a lot of people will be disappointed, but I will not be one of those people. I think to me, he just screams Buffalo Bill. Like that Gabe Hall, he just screams Buffalo Bill to me.